2004, Ferrari had taken their third Monza victory in a row, delighting the tifosi who had turned up in their droves to see the Scarlet cars finish first and second. Ferrari had then gone on to finish first and second in the Drivers' Championship too, easily winning the Constructors' Championship as if the opposition was irrelevant. However, 2005 saw a rather less optimistic Ferrari faithful, as the new tyre rules had destroyed the team's advantage over the field and left them struggling even for podiums, let alone wins. The team came to Monza third in the Constructors' Championship, with Renault and McLaren clearly faster. Initially it was the McLarens who lined up first and second on the grid, with Kimi Räikkönen taking pole but then dropping to 11th due to an engine change and subsequent grid penalty. This meant that Juan Pablo Montoya moved up to pole position, with championship leader and future Aston Martin star Fernando Alonso second. The two BARs of Button and Sato were impressive in third and fourth, but look at the Ferraris down in 6th and 7th positions and then Fisichella in 8th. When the race got underway, there was a little puff of smoke from Button's car, but he got away with the others as normal. Up in front, Montoya kept the lead as there was contact at the back between Albers and Kartikeyan. I'm also going to bring the crunch count up to 2 due to this little kerfuffle I spotted. Coulthard damaged his front wing on the back of Fisichella's car, causing Webber to run into the back of him and damage his own front wing. Sato was brave on the outside of Parabolica to keep his 4th place, and at the end of lap 1 the top 5 were still as they were in qualifying, with Trulli holding that 5th place. Looking to the Ferraris, that's actually Barrichello ahead of Schumacher in these early stages, and there he goes into 5th place now, passing Trulli, who tries to come back at him, but not quite. Even without DRS, the slipstream is still incredibly powerful at Monza, and moves like that are quite inevitable, so finally the tifosi had something to cheer about. More than Kartikeyan did, at least. Anyway, now for a masterclass in how not to pull an overtake. Wide bump over the sausage curbs goes Michael Schumacher, and now he doesn't give up the place despite having cut the corner to pass Trulli. In Michael's defence, it does appear that he let Trulli back through in the end, but it did happen off camera.
And that's Alonso going slowly, is it? Or was that a replay? Sorry,
it's a slow-mo replay.
Don't worry, Martin, it happens to the best of us. Skipping forward a bit to the pit stops, here's Villeneuve making his, which would have been a great release to Kimi Räikkönen, who had spent the first stint of the race unable to make up any positions due to being stuck behind the Sauber. The two Ferraris had also made their first stop by this point, showing that they were probably running less fuel than their opposition just to keep up. Remember that there were no scheduled tyre changes in 2005, so every stop was for fuel primarily. Stopping shortly after was Alonso, who came out right in front of his main championship rival Räikkönen. It may not have really been for position, since Kimi was yet to stop, but you can bet these two would never waste an opportunity to do battle. Alonso's Renault would have felt as heavy as a Renault truck as Kimi swarmed all over his gearbox, but firm he held. At least Kimi had one less car to pass for position by this point, as unfortunately Sato had had to stop twice due to his fuel rig not working during his first pit stop. Elsewhere, the other McLaren found itself in close proximity with the other Renault. That's Montoya pitting from the lead and coming out right behind Fisichella. Trulli then pitted on the same lap, but look at Räikkönen having a swipe at Alonso! There he goes! Finally, he was able to pull an overtake. Looks like it wasn't easy though. Kimi initially got ahead into turn 1, but then both cars went off in their attempt to outbrake each other. It was only down into Della Roggia that the place was finally settled. Sadly for Kimi, it seems he had a problem. Having climbed up into 5th place, his left rear tyre began to delaminate and he was forced to make an unscheduled pit stop, just a few laps after his scheduled one. The rules in 2005 said that you were allowed to change tyres in the event of a puncture, so he wasn't out at least, but ironically he came out 12th, right behind Jacques Villeneuve, who had been stuck behind for so long at the start. It was back to square one for Kimi, and also for Barrichello, who pitted for a bad flat spot on one of his front tyres. No doubt he had Kimi's Nürburgring exploits in mind. Lap 40 and there's Montoya making his final pit stop of the day. By this point he was easily out in front and all he needed to do was cruise home. Fisichella also pitted on the same lap for his last stop. One notable story from the last round of pit stops is that Jenson Button appeared to be well out of contention by this point. He had dropped back a few places in the first pit window, but it was assumed that he was on some kind of ultimate strategy that would elevate him back up the order at the end. Alas, having made his second pit stop, he found himself coming out in 9th position. Here comes Webber. Ooh, careful guys, save your racing for the racetrack. And that's a spin for Räikkönen now, goodness me! He did so well not to beach that car with his rear wheels in the gravel. Amazingly, he only lost 1 place, dropping in behind Trulli, and he gained it back again just 1 lap later into the Parabolica. This put him up into... Wait! 4th place! How did he get up there? Yes, unbelievably, despite seemingly everything going wrong for Kimi, he was still on course for a top 4 result, showing just how fast that McLaren must have been. Other cars had tried their luck, but they had all dropped behind in the second pit window. In the late stages of the race, it began to get tense as Montoya's rear tyres started showing signs of extensive wear. McLaren responded, getting new tyres ready in case there was indeed a full-blown delamination of Montoya's tyres. Tyres? Also, while this was going on, Raikkonen was catching Fisichella for 3rd at a considerable rate of knots, and it looked like it was going to be close. Bravely, McLaren decided to keep Montoya out despite bits of rubber flying off the rear tyres, and somehow this didn't result in a monumental accident. Juan Pablo Montoya had led every single lap of the Grand Prix, and he led across the line to win, a very gutsy drive indeed. Second was Alonso, just 2.5 seconds back, and had the race been a lap longer, I think he might well have won. Third was Giancarlo Fisichella in the other Renault, and Raikkonen was 4th in the end despite his troubles. The Toyotas of Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher were best of the rest in 5th and 6th, and an honourable mention should go to Antonio Pizzonia, who finished 7th, scoring his last F1 points while substituting for Nick Heidfeld, who was injured in a testing crash. The final point scorer was Jenson Button in 8th, and then the other cars in the top 10 were Felipe Massa and Michael Schumacher. Yes, Michael Schumacher in 10th place. Amazingly, there were no retirements at all, making this the first time in F1 history that a full grid of 20 cars had all finished a Grand Prix. Guys, before I give this race a score, I want to let you know that I have a Dailymotion account for all the videos that get taken down from my YouTube channel by the pesky FOM bots. Due to the high levels of parody, review and education my videos contain, I believe that all of them fall under fair use, but sadly this isn't always enough. On my Dailymotion, you can find the 1996 Monaco and Portuguese Grand Prix, as well as the 2008 Japanese Grand Prix, and more. I also now have a Twitch channel, where I stream about once a week and would really like to grow my audience. The links to both of these accounts are in the description of this video. Thank you. I gave the Grand Prix a 4 out of 10 overall, because with the exception of the ending, I found it rather straightforward. That's all I've got to say about it really. It was okay. I'll give the Driver of the Day award for Best Driver to Juan Pablo Montoya, who led from lights to flag despite his tyres threatening to fall apart. I'll give the Annoy Trophy for Worst Driver to Christian Albers for driving straight into Kartikeyan at the start. Drive safely guys, and I'll see you next time.